podcast. I'm your host, Harry, and I'm joined by the wonderful Katie. So, Katie, could you just introduce yourself, please, and tell me a little bit more about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm Katie. I am lead nurse for fundamentals of care in the older adult at Hampshire Hospitals. And basically, my primary focus is patient safety through clinical delivery of care. So that's from continence, falls prevention, tissue viability, all the things that are basic nursing care which contribute to the level of safety of our patients whilst in our care.
Wonderful, and that actually brings me on nicely to my disclaimer. So, any views expressed by myself or my guests are strictly our own. They do not reflect any organisation we work for, they do not reflect the university I study at or that Katie may study at, they do not reflect the employer that I'm employed with or Katie's employed with, or any other nursing regulatory body or nursing trade union or any other professional regulatory nursing body. They are strictly our own. Could you tell me a little bit more about what the Fundamentals of Care team do? Because I get what you've just said, which is wonderful. But when you're talking about looking after patients, what do you do in terms of, do you train members of staff? What is it in the Fundamentals of Care team you do?
Yeah, so we do a bit of everything. So we are predominantly clinical. Our roles are clinical based. So that's going to see patients who are considered high risk or they do require an intervention. So we get referred patients on our clinical list. Alongside that, we are the overseers of delivery of falls prevention, pressure ulcer prevention. We lead continence care in the hospital, and we support our therapy teams, we support governance, we support patient safety. We don't really have a label. We kind of do lots of things to improve and develop patient knowledge, patient staff, patient interaction. It isn't just about our staff, it's about empowering our patients. So we get very focused on making sure our staff know what they're meant to do, but actually we should empower patients, we should be getting them involved in their care. So we like to work in partnership with those that we're looking after.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. So, I was about to say as well, you guys seem like a jack of all trades, really. You do absolutely everything.
Yeah, we do. We do.
So, Katie, what out of interest, what made you become a nurse? What was it that you were like, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to become a nurse. I'm going to train to become.
I was always going to be a nurse, alongside being a mum, which was my ultimate goal in life from such a long age. You know, I don't think there was another job I was going to do. We sort of try all of the things you do through teenage life, but it was always predominantly to, back then when I didn't know the right language, look after old people, and that was my goal in life. It was to make things better for older people that I knew, and nothing stopped me really. Nothing was in my way.
So that was it. So from that get go, you were like, right, I'm going to become a nurse.
That's it. Awesome. The silly, the little costumes you used to get when you were a child, and all. That was life for me.
Yeah. So within the Fundamentals of Care team, and sort of going back to the episode title of the Fundamentals of Nursing, if you were to sit down with a nursing student, what would you say to them, and how would you advise them, basically? So it's like, so the question is really, so nursing students, what would you really recommend and what they focus on when it comes to improving their own patient care?
That is such a good question, and we talk about this actually all the time because we get student nurses on placement, and I always say break it down, because you get an X amount of people that will say, I want to make a difference. That difference is such a big word. What does difference look like to you? Is it a face that is smiley? Is it someone holding your hand? Is it someone that's actually going to give you a really good wash when you need it? Is it someone that's going to give you that push to say, actually, you can do it? I think we get very caught up on making a difference, but we forget what a difference can be, because nursing comes in all shapes and forms. It isn't just beds by the bedside anymore, and we get caught up on, to be a nurse, you should be giving out meds or doing a dressing. Actually, nursing takes many forms, and it's all needed in modern day nursing. So break it down. What does that difference look like? Because every difference is needed for our patients.
That is so true. That is so true. And like that actually sort of goes back on what you've just said. Um, I got asked on my first ever placement, like, "Oh, Harry, so why did you want to do this?" What? And my thing is literally what you just said. Well, I do want to make a difference. And then I was asked, "Well, what is a difference?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's actually a really good question." So yeah, that's so true. So
Yeah,
um, in
it
terms
is.
of yeah, like in terms of making a difference to staff and to patients, um, looking after um, and educating not just the staff but the patients as well. Have you guys had any sort of major success stories in the fundamentals of care team?
Yeah, and I think we can measure success, can't we, in so many different ways. Data is great,
Yeah,
it's reliable, but lived experience can be just as, if not more, valid. So we have numbers to kind of show worth in what we're doing. So severity of harm in falls has dropped. The amount of hospital-acquired moisture damage that we're incurring in hospital has dropped. We're seeing, people always get a little bit confused, but we're seeing a better reporting of pressure ulcers. That isn't showing that we're getting worse in our practice. Actually, it's showing we're getting better because people know what to look out for. It's making people recognise that that is what they should be doing. So we have the numerical data, but we also have such amazing patient stories. You know, we've had patients who've been referred to us and plan was for nursing care. And we've kind of gone in, put a plan, we've done nails, we've got them a continence plan, we've done all of that sort of nursing stuff that's by the bedside nursing, but also come away and looked at how can we make this better out and away from the bedside. And that patient's gone home with a package of care now. You know, it isn't, lived experience is just so much more important sometimes. And one change for one person is the
yeah,
start of a big change for a lot of people.
yeah. That is so true. So what is your sort of speciality? Because I know at the beginning when I asked like what you wanted to do and like how you became a nurse, it was like mainly older people. Was that sort of like what you mainly specialize in? Is it just older people, or do you do everyone? Because as a nurse, our spectrum of care is everyone from day one to well past 100 in some cases.
Absolutely, absolutely. And every patient is just as important. It doesn't matter what stage of life or what stage of their journey or what they've come in with, what they're being discharged with. Predominantly, my background, so my master's is in elderly care, and my doctorate is in elderly care and older adults. But my specialties really are neurocare, neurorehabilitation, falls. I'm the lead for the trust, but my big love is the bowel and the bladder. That's, you know, anybody that knows me, they know I'm smiling, I can tell. I light up when I think about helping people to
Yeah,
remain continent or
poo and wee.
reduce the taboos around involuntary leaks. Yeah, pee and poo is my favourite thing in the whole world. You know, when it comes down to the nitty gritty of it, because it is so life changing and there's so much shame that we still put into it. Um, and you know, we shouldn't have taboos around it. It's just coming out is what went in. You know. So yeah, my specialty is older people, and that is my field of nursing that I love, along with neuro. But give me a good poo any day, and I'm
Yeah,
happy.
love it, absolutely love it. So, um, I've yeah, I've come across the fundamentals of care team quite a lot. Just because on my own ward, I've taken a little bit more of an interest in falls prevention, which you guys happily provided the training
Mm,
for, which has been absolutely amazing. But I know you guys as well. Taking a step back from nurses and nursing, we've got wonderful healthcare support workers. So I think they are the backbone
we
of
do.
any ward. Yeah, any ward is healthcare support workers. So what is it you got? Do you offer any training for healthcare support workers? How have you changed their role and when it comes to the fundamentals of nursing and fundamentals of care?
Yeah, absolutely. So we now are. a part of the new corporate induction that we have for all of our healthcare support workers. We lead on the care certificate now so that we know the standards or gold standard education that our healthcare support workers are getting are to the same standard that nurses should be being taught. You know, that you have to have a blank canvas and then all work from the same sheet, you know, once you've got these practices in place. So yeah, we do that. Since we kind of took all of this over, we've got over 100 people passed on their care certificate, which doesn't seem a lot, but when you look at when you go back to when we started, so we took over just at the end of May. That's a huge amount, you know, and we're getting healthcare support workers that are now going to their first clinical shift, aware that people go to the toilet, aware that people aren't always having a good time. You know, it's not casualty, it's not Holby, it's not Grey's Anatomy. This is real life. This is what care looks like, and that's what we need. We need a workforce that are not scared because, you know, we don't want to frighten our workers off, but we want them prepared. We don't want to shock them into what NHS and caring looks like. It's the best job ever, but we have to be ready for it.
So, having said all of that, so Katie, I do want to focus on you for a second, actually. So, having talked about your team, your role, what is next for you? So, taking your career forward, what would you say is next for you? Because you're already sort of a matron slash manager of a team, you've got your master's and now a doctorate. What is next?
Oh, that's a good question. So I am not. I've never had aspirations to be sort of directors of nursing or anything like that. I am a very clinically
Yeah.
focused nurse, but I the governance side and safety side of nursing. And my aspiration has always been to be consultant nurse post. That's always been where I'm sort of going, where I'm heading, and that's obviously why the doctorate happened. But yeah, and I think for me that will
Oh,
be it. That is my. But you know, I think it's be the best in any role that you can be, as opposed to sort of it isn't a. I don't think people should ever think that they're settling. You know, because you could be a healthcare support worker and be the best healthcare support worker that you could ever be. I don't think that we should ever view anybody as settling. I think it's about what their aspiration is and
yeah,
what
that's so
matters to
true. That
them.
is actually a really good point, actually, because um, going off of that, you know, I'm quite career driven. So it's for me, it was right. I'm going to be the best healthcare support worker can possibly be, and then what's next? Well, naturally, the progression from healthcare is to nurse. So I'm in my training. So I always take one step at a time. I've never like I for me anyway, it's been a really big struggle. I can see where I want to be, but I need to look up at what's in front of
Mm-hmm.
me because there's loads of hurdles
Yeah,
and things you need to cross before you need to get to where you're going. But yeah, it was a really good question. I thought I might just throw at you because yeah.
yeah, no.
So
And it's good, like you say, it's good to just take it in for a minute. I think we get so kind of caught up on what's next and actually enjoy what you've achieved. I think you
yeah,
should
exactly,
celebrate your
100%.
wins, you know?
We've all got to celebrate the small things because it is, especially in my opinion, it is the small things that make the biggest difference for our patients, and we should actually consider that in our real lives as well. It's the small things that make the biggest difference in our own lives. So yeah, so going off of that and moving a little bit forward, you want to be or you would like to be a consultant nurse or a nurse consultant, etc. Um, where do you see that impacting the fundamentals of nursing? So how do you, in your role, um, what to you basically is the fundamentals of nursing?
I think it's stripping it back. I think we've got very good as a profession taking it forward, rightly so. You know, nursing is not just about wiping brows anymore. It is beyond the bedside. But I think for any nurse that there'll be a certain group of nurses I think that this will resonate with, that it's just in you. Basic nursing care is it's just in you, and it's my passion. I think the greatest things that I've ever achieved, or the best conversations I've ever had with a patient, or times when I felt like I've achieved the differences that I wanted to make in my nursing career, have always been delivering basic care, taking someone out to the toilet, making sure that they're covered up in bed, giving them a drink, brushing their teeth. I don't think we don't have to complicate basic nursing. It
Yeah,
is what it is, and it is what it says on the tin, and as much as we have different members of the MDT, so we've got healthcare supports and we've got our trainee nurses, at the root of nursing is that
it
basic care
is.
delivery. And I think we should be
Yeah,
proud of it.
100%. And, it is all about getting down to, well, when we talk about the fundamentals of nursing and the fundamentals of caring, it is what we like to call now, I think, as a profession, the basic things. So taking taking someone
Mm,
out of bed, getting them dressed, washing them, dressing them, taking them to the toilet, giving them food, tea, coffee, stuff like that, making sure someone's comfortable. I think as a profession, we, and again, like you said, rightfully so, nursing has evolved so much into a point now you have nurses doing minor operations and things like that that were only reserved
mm,
for medical staff, which, and
absolutely.
the fundamentals of nursing often, I think, does get forgotten, especially in on the
Mm.
wards and in primary care. As nurses, we do need to take a step back, I think, and go, what are our fundamentals and what do they mean? But yeah,
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it isn't necessarily they're forgotten. I think we rush. I think we don't give ourselves
yeah,
the time to be nurses sometimes, and we know nobody comes to work to cause
exactly.
harm or to not do those things. But I think we receive so many different jobs that we have to do in a day, and we always, it's always driven in, isn't it? It's a 24-hour service, but then we have things that we have, targets we have to meet, or there's always that next sort of discharge that we need to meet. And actually, sometimes if we were to just take a helicopter view, just take a step back and just remember that right now what we've got in front of us is crucial. It's so
Oh,
important
100%.
for the future. I think sometimes, we don't give ourselves enough credit, and I don't sometimes think we always remember that the basic care is just as important as the
Exactly.
glamorous, sexy stuff.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, that is 100%, 100% accurate. Um, but having gone off of that and talking, I mentioned, and I'm picking up on this word, the future. Having said what we've just
Mm.
said, what advice would you give to student nurses or nursing apprentices that you were to say sit down with, or you were to see on the ward? What advice would you give them if they came to you and said, "How can I improve?" or "What would make me a better nurse?"
I think that helicopter
Mm,
view that I've just mentioned is so important. Take a step back, embrace roles. I meet so many sort of student nurses and stuff who, they see where they work, and that's it. That's their aspiration in nursing. I mean, I'm not criticizing because that was me. That was always what I was going to do. And I sort of stuck to my plan. But remember, like you say, nurses do so many things that we never thought nurses could achieve. Remember to break it down, take that kind of, what does that difference mean to you? So don't just say, I want to make a difference. What does that difference mean? Does it mean reablement? Does it mean compassionate end of life? Break it down, understand what it really means, and also ask questions. We've forgotten we are a profession of question asking. We've almost kind of stopped that, but it's questions
it
that get
is,
us to
yeah.
the next step. It's evidence based nursing is based on asking, and we forget the power that we hold in research and in driving nursing forward. So take a step back, and also don't judge people for the career choices they make. You know, I hear lots of people saying, well, that's not nursing. It is nursing, because
Mm,
nursing is not what it
100%.
was 5, 10, 15, 100 years ago, so be brave, be bold, and move it forward how you think it should be moved forward, and be that voice, be that
Oh my
champion
god,
for
100%.
nursing.
That is the best answer I think I've ever heard to that question. That is such a good answer. So, um, going. And going off of that, um, I have one last question to ask you. So,
Mm-hmm.
when you created the fundamentals of care team, or when you were asked to create the fundamentals of care team, what what was your vision, and what is it now?
Mm.
Does that make sense? So,
Yeah, so I mean, we have a team vision that we put together, and our team vision is very much about creating an environment where staff, it doesn't matter what role, are safe to learn and develop, and where patients are given the best standard of care based on clinical knowledge and insight. You know, it's we've always had that vision, and to strip it right back, to remember that turning the patient is the best way to prevent a pressure ulcer. To keep people moving is the best way to prevent a fall. You know, it's basic care is fundamental to everything that we do, the safety of our patients and the experiences of our staff. You know, you can't have happy patients without happy staff.